Welcome. Let us get to know what is meant by planets with untenanted stars in Krishnamurti Paddhati and why such planets take on some special signification role in KP. So let us first look at what this word untenanted means. And for that, you just need this table with these two columns, the planet and the star lord. Now, when we look at the planet and the star lord, we say that the planet A is deposited in the star of planet B. Let me explain you what is meant by when we say the planet A is deposited in the star ruled by planet B. So let's look at Ketu. So, so we say that Ketu is deposited in the star ruled by Venus. When we look at the star lord, Venus is the star lord. So we say Ketu is deposited in the star ruled by Venus. We can also say this Ketu occupies the star ruled by Venus. This is also said that Ketu is tenanted in the star of Venus, or Ketu is placed in the star of Venus. Later on, when you have a good handle and then you don't want to use very long sentences, then you just say Ketu is in the star of Venus, or you say Ketu is in Venus star. And at one point, when you become a little lazy, you just say Ketu in Venus. So all these things basically just means the same thing. Ketu is deposited in the star ruled by Venus. So all these sentences, all these are various ways of saying the same thing. Now let's take a look from the other way around. We said that the Ketu is deposited in the star of Venus. Now let's say the same thing the other way. That is from the star lord to the planet. So this is how we say from the star lord to the planet. So when we are looking at the star lord Venus, so we say Venus star is occupied by Ketu, or we say Venus star is tenanted by Ketu. Is the same thing. In this example, it was from the planet to star lord, and here it is from the star lord to the planet. But this particular thing will help you in understanding what exactly is meant by untenanted star. So now let's look at each of these 9 planets and try to read it using this particular format of language. So let's say Ketu. So when we look at the this column, the star lord column, right? So we find that Ketu appears uh, here and here. So we say that the Ketu star is tenanted by Mercury, and Ketu star is also tenanted by Saturn. Or in other words, we say that Ketu's star is occupied by Mercury and Ketu's star is also occupied by Saturn. Now let's move on to Venus. So when we look at the star lord column, we find Venus over here. So we say that the Venus star is occupied by Ketu. Now let's look at Sun. Now this is important. When you look at Sun, so you don't find Sun anywhere over here, right? You don't see Sun. So now you say that Sun's star is unoccupied, or you say that Sun's star is untenanted. That is what is meant by untenanted. You see that the sun is not appearing anywhere as the star lord. That means that no planet is deposited in the sun's star, or the sun's star is untenanted, or you can say sun is untenanted. And if you look at moon, then you find the same thing. You don't find moon anywhere in the star lord column. So you say that the moon star is untenanted. If you look at Mars, then you find that Mars appears here and Mars also appears here and Mars also appears here. So Mars star is tenanted. And then if you look at Rahu, then you don't find Rahu also. You don't see Rahu anywhere here. So you say Rahu's star is untenanted, or Rahu star is not occupied by any of the planets. Then Jupiter, and Jupiter is here. So Jupiter star is tenanted, or Jupiter star is occupied. Saturn also you find here. And then Mercury, so Mercury you find here. So finally it is the Sun, Moon and Rahu. These stars are untenanted. No, you don't find any planet. Those are deposited in the star of Sun or the Moon or the Rahu. So finally we say that planet with untenanted stars are Sun, Moon and Rahu. I hope this example has helped you make clear that how to identify the untenanted stars. Like basically you just have to look at the star lord column and find out what planets are missing. So those planets become the untenanted planets. Now, having said that, what is the special significance of these untenanted planets? Let's first identify these planets with some special symbols. We'll put a star over here. So this just indicates that these three planets are the untenanted planets, planets with untenanted stars. So now to look at the spatial signification these untenanted planet take on, let's look at the signification table. So now this is the signification table and where this particular column is the position and the ownership, and these house number appear because of the star lord, and this is because of the sublord. You're pretty familiar with this kind of a layout. And so we have identified these three planets, the untenanted planets over here. Now what happens is that if you look at the moon, okay, so you normally you say that moon is deposited, moon is placed in the second house, and moon is the owner of the 12th house, right? So you just write 2 and 12, and then you look on uh, the the star lord of the moon, that's Mars, and then the sublord, and this is how you create the whole signification numbers for the moon. But since the moon star is unoccupied, so the house number 12, which is empty, it takes on a very special strength in terms of how moon is representing it. When you write like this, then the signification of moon for this particular house, that's the 12th house, is just as level 1. But if you look at the signification table from this angle, right? If you look from the this angle, where you are not looking from the planet angle, but you are looking at the significator from the cusp angle. So what are the rule for the cusp significator? That the strongest L1 is the strongest planet in the star of the occupant of this house. So if you look at the 12th house, right, so you find that there is no planet, right? So rule number 1 or L1 is not applicable here. Then you say occupant of the house. There no planet is occupying the 12th cusp. Then you say planet in the star of the owner of the house. This is very important. So when you look at the planet in the star of the owner of the house, that's moon. So you find that moon is not appearing anywhere in the star lord column. So that basically means that the moon is untenanted. and finally then the owner of the house. So what happens is that when you say that planet in the star of the owner of the house, and if you don't find anything, then you say that moon itself is the significator of the 12th house. So rather than writing the 12th house signification over here, you might want to write it somewhere like this. So this helps you suggest that moon's signification for the 12th house is stronger. It's not on the level 1. It's more like on the star lot table. And when you are judging the strength of the planet for various predictive purpose, then whether the strength appears in column 1, column 2 or column 3 matters a lot in KP. So the untenanted planet takes on this spatial strength, and they become more stronger. Thus, you see that the this table alone could be a little misleading in representing the actual strength of the planet when it comes to the planet with untenanted stars. And now let's look at from the cusp point of view as well, because the story of the untenanted planets with untenanted stars, will not be complete if their spatial signification is not discussed in the cusp table. So now this is the cusp table, right? And we already know that Sun, Moon, and Rahu, these three are the untenanted planets. Now the rule for the untenanted planet in the cusp is, this is the rule. The rule says the untenanted planet appearing as cuspal sublot becomes a very strong significator of that cusp. This is a very important rule in KP, and if you rely on this table, this particular table, then you are most likely to miss this particular important rule in KP. The untenanted planet appearing as cuspal sublot becomes very strong significator of that cusp. Now, I'm just for the sake of some simplification, I would just focus on Rahu. Rahu we know is untenanted because no planet is deposited in Rahu's star. So Rahu is a very strong significator of Rahu itself. Okay. So now where Rahu appears, Rahu, if you look at the cuspal sublot, this particular column, right? So you find that Rahu appears here, which is the 10th cuspal sublot, and Rahu appears here as the 12th cuspal sublot. Now, if suppose this was a horary chart, and if the question was related to some profession regarding maybe some entertainment industry, or maybe some kind of a partnership, or maybe some kind of a investment, then normally you would say, okay, the 10th sublord, whether it's a significator of 10th house or not. And if you look at the typical arrangement of this particular table, the planet signification, then you will not find house number 10 appearing anywhere over here. So you are likely to make a very incorrect judgment that since Rahu has nothing to do with the 10th house, therefore the 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 question for the horary chart is not very positive, right? And but if you apply this particular rule, and this is the rule that you should apply, especially in the horary chart where you are sure about the cuspal sublord, then you might want to write the 10th house as well over here. Rahu becomes a very strong significator of the 10th house because it appears as the cuspal sublord of the 10th, and there is an additional condition that it is untenanted. So Rahu becomes the strong significator of the 10th house. Therefore, a question related to the 10th house takes on a very positive note over here because Rahu becomes the significator of the 10th house. Similarly, if you look at the cuspal sublord of 12th, that's also Rahu. Now, if there is a question regarding, will there be some kind of investigation on my business, or will there be some kind of a government inquiry? So, in that case, the 12th house should be in the focus in the horary chart. Now, if you look at Rahu's signification over here, you don't see the 12th house, right? But if you apply this rule, then you find that Rahu also becomes a very strong significator of 12th house. This is all happening because Rahu is untenanted. So now in the horary, any question related to the government inquiry or investigation, and when you have this kind of an arrangement where Rahu is the 12th cuspal sublord and it is untenanted, then it becomes a very strong significator of the 12th house. And now if you look at this particular combination, then you find that the 6, 8 and 12, these there is a strong handshaking. So this becomes a takes on a very negative kind of a uh, um, uh, color in the horary chart. So this is how you have to keep in mind the untenanted planet. And the best thing is most of the software they will put some kind of a flag like a star or something, or they will put some kind of a legend note that identifying that which planets are untenanted for a particular horoscope. And like I mentioned, in the birth chart, it is up to you. If you are very sure about the cuspal sublord, then you might want to use it. I'm little cautious about the cuspal sublord in the birth horoscope, but in the horary, you must make a use of it. You should not depend only solely on this, table. Otherwise, your predictions are going to fail in the horary chart. So that's pretty much about the untenanted planet. Thanks for watching.